Yeah, it was really surprising to look at the garage thoughts that you put together this week and see all the red associated with Kyle Busch and that spreadsheet because zero top 20s, zero top 10s. He just hasn't performed well here, just had bad luck.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DK Garage. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joe.
Well, last week was a bit chaotic, a bit hectic. Weren't able to get out our normal podcast and rundown. But honestly, the way the crazy NASCAR week turned out, I'm kind of almost glad we didn't because while the little bit of racing that we saw was great, it did not play into our overall strategy because that's not how a super speedway race typically goes. What was your thoughts on the week and what little bit of racing we finally got to see?
Yeah, it was a weird week for everyone, it seemed like, not just us. It was the first week we hadn't put out content all year, which we went almost 30-something weeks without missing a beat. But, hey, every once in a while, reality slaps you in the face. And next thing you know, we got rained out on Sunday before they could get the race action underway. I know a lot of people even forgot that the race was happening on Monday. There were people I was talking to that throughout the week that were looking forward to the race and then forgot all about it because work happened on Monday. So there's so many different aspects to it, and it probably wasn't very good for the sport overall. Just having that happen, it could have been a monumental moment for the sport with Bubba Wallace winning there at Talladega. The way he did it, it's awesome to see him get his first win. We knew, and we've talked about throughout this season, how that team has looked strong on super speedways, and we would anticipate them potentially getting their first win on a super speedway, and it played out that way. But unfortunately, the rain played a bigger factor than we all anticipated, and man, it's a shame, but it was kind of cool to see somebody get their first win in the Cup Series, and it's good for Bubba Wallace and their trajectory going into 2022.
Not only did he get his first win, but every series at Talladega, Xfinity and Trucks, each one of those races had a first-time winner in them. No playoff drivers won. So, I thought the truck race was really good. I thought the Xfinity race was really good. We were able to see the full race. I was hyped up for Sunday. I thought the Cup race was just going to be lights out. Big deflation after they finally call it with the rain. I mean, they took the cars out basically on a parade lap, it seemed like, on Sunday. It was just like, what is this? Like, really? But you're right, with work, I didn't get to see that. I haven't been able to watch basically the first stage. I was able to listen to it on radio. Those guys always do a pretty good job of describing what's going on, but it's really hard to see everything and describe everything at Talladega when there's, 10 lead changes per lap practically. But you're right, it was huge for the sport for Bubba to get his first win. I mean, he's kind of been everywhere. I would have liked for him to get his first win and it be a full race, because now you're always going to have people who are going to say something, like, I mean, it was a rain delay. And look, I think that that's somewhat valid. I mean, Justin Haley a few years ago, he gets the trophy, he gets the money. That's great for him, and there's nothing against him. We know he's going to be a great super speedway racer. Or already is, but I think he's going to be a real handful this next 10 years or so in Cup, starting next year with Colleague. But at this point, I mean, he wasn't. If that race goes to the end, he's probably not going to win. I mean, he was in a pretty slow car. You can look back at like a Chris Buescher's rain delay win at Pocono. He's a great racer. He almost won Daytona a few weeks ago. Would have probably got disqualified had he done that, but he still got close. But he hasn't been able to win since. So I don't see Bubba Wallace getting another win this year. but he needs to definitely get another win because his next win solidifies this win, in my opinion, and I think that will kind of silence a lot of the people who don't really give him the respect that he deserves on super speedways, because you said it, we've been kind of talking him up. He for some reason does really well on these styles of tracks.
So with that being said, do you anticipate him getting a win in 2022 on a non-super speedway track, or do we see him win in your eyes outside of the super speedways? Because we both have talked extensively how they approach this as their opportunity to get a win being on super speedways. We saw their speed in Daytona, at Talladega, and then again Talladega, they were up there at the front. But we hadn't seen the consistency in all the other types of racing. Obviously, this is their first year being a team, the last year of this generation of car, moving into the next generation next year. There's a lot at stake. This is a good boost, I think, for them. Helps with sponsorships, all the things that you really want. But what's your outlook on how Bubba Wallace and this team overall fits in? And does this help propel them? And like I said, I want to understand, do you think he wins in any other setting outside of super speedways?
That's really hard to answer just because I have no idea how these cars are truly going to race. We don't know for sure that the guys who are currently good and who are in really good equipment, if they're still going to have that same edge that they've had, or if some of these guys who we know are really talented but in lesser equipment, are they going to be able to challenge more? I think if it's a little bit more even and spread out, I don't know if that necessarily helps Bubba, because I think Richard Petty Motorsports had always gave him pretty good super speedway cars. I mean, we see Eric Jones. I think he got a 9th place finish. He's better than a lot of other cars. Also, you don't have to have the absolute best equipment at super speedways to have a good, strong finish. We know 2311 is an upgrade from the Richard Petty car. So I would say if we had another year in the current generation, I don't see him necessarily getting a win outside of super speedways, but I think he can contend for a win for sure. But if you give a bunch of other cars that are similar, that I think that hurts everyone's chances of picking up those wins. We know some guys will find ways, like Kyle Larson and I'm sure Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, things like that. They'll find ways, but yeah, I don't know. I know that this will help the program overall. They'll have sponsorships. They'll have funding. I think Kurt Busch should be a huge boost for Bubba, someone that he can kind of lean on, much like I'm sure he has for Denny. I have a hard time saying yes, he'll win outside of it, but I think he definitely needs to win outside of it for him to really take that next level. I mean, what do you think? Are you seeing this really propelling him forward, or I don't know, what's your thoughts on it for next season?
Next season, you pointed out there's a lot of unknowns, and it's going to be exciting to see how this team utilizes this win, and if it really truly propels them. I can see it really helping them with the money situation and helping sponsorships and things of that nature. We already saw McDonald's give him big props, which is huge whenever you see their following and things of that nature. It helps the sport tremendously. So I think it will help them overall as a team. It will help his confidence, and ultimately, only time will tell. I know that we've got a lot to talk about in regards to other things that transpired throughout Talladega. That was a huge moment for the sport, but we're in the middle of the playoffs, and we knew this was going to be a wild card race, much so like this weekend at the Roval. It's going to be very similar of a kind of wild card race. We know there are some more favorites towards the front of the pack, and it's a little bit easier to maintain than it is in super speedways, but still, it's not going to be easy. There are a couple drivers now based on super speedway action at Talladega that are hurting and basically are in must-win situations, and two of them are Hendrick teammates of William Byron and Alex Bowman. That's going to be interesting to see how they play, because I think we have to basically see one of those guys win, and then there's other guys that are on the bubble, if you will. Two championship favorites, Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott, are only 9 points above the cut line now. There's a lot of things to talk about headed in based on what transpired this past weekend at Talladega.
Well, you hit a lot of big things there, so I'll try to unpack some of that. Yeah, the big thing with a non-playoff driver winning this race is that's one less driver who got a chance to lock themselves in, and it really does suck because you had Brad and Joey who were running strong all day, finished second and third, so good for the points. That will help them at a track that they've had some success and also some struggles at. Christopher Bell, he was and is pretty far below the points line or the cut line, but he finished fifth and he led some laps. He led 12 laps. He looked strong. He was getting help from his teammate Denny Hamlin. Harvick was up there. He led 16 laps. He looked really good. Truex, we didn't really expect too much from him. He got a couple laps led on everybody, but who knows what would have happened with him. Same thing with Blaney. We know what he can do there, and also Chase Elliott. So it really put a lot of these drivers in a deeper hole, not just because of their finishing positions, but just the fact that no one was able to lock themselves in. You kind of mentioned the points here. There's really only one driver, in my opinion, who can point his way in who's currently below the cut line, and that's Kevin Harvick. And I'm not saying that he will do that. I just say Christopher Bell, 28 points back. He has to win this race. William Byron, he's 44 points back. He's got to win this race. And Alex Bowman, 52 points back. He has to win this race. Obviously with stage racing, that can shake some things up. Both Elliott and Kyle Busch, you mentioned, they're only 9 points above that cut line, so they could have some trouble that could make it possible, I guess, for some of these other guys to point their way back in. But man, I think they just have to go out there and strategize for the win. I don't know if there's going to be any weather. If we get any rain and they are racing in the rain here, that's only going to intensify everything. I guess looking at, before we kind of dive into more of the stats of the Roval, which I'm really excited about this race. I've always enjoyed this race. I was actually for work this morning doing a little research into it, and I was going to watch some clips from the race, a previous one, and I noticed NASCAR had a full race from the 2019 Roval on board with Martin Truex. Now, I didn't get to watch all of it. I watched, 30 minutes or so, kind of skipping around some. And it's really, in my opinion, the reason why I like road courses and this track in particular, you get to hear them work the throttle, be patient, have to shift. You get to see when you kind of watch it, and something that you can't really get on TV is when you're just watching it essentially from one view, this onboard camera, you can see how they're taking each corner and trying to line up, also set up the other drivers in front of them so they can make a pass. But then as the run goes on, you hear them have to get out of the throttle way sooner. At times they would get to the throttle right before going, back into another corner. Later in the run, they just coasted, around some of those corners. So it's just, from my perspective, I always enjoy these kind of races because it's like, those drivers are really working it. This is a tough course. You make a mistake, you blow through a chicane, hit one of those chicanes wrong, and you have to do a stop and go. I think in the time that I watched, I think Truex had to do 2 stop and goes in that particular race. All that hard work gone. Like, you lose a ton of time. So that's going to be fun to look out for. But getting back to kind of the point situation and what this track has to offer, who is someone above the cut line currently that you think is in the most trouble of not moving on?
for above the cut line is going to
Right.
be challenging, but I think
I'm
the
not saying
one that
that one
sticks.
that will. I'm just saying if one really struggles, who do you feel like is the most likely to not make it?
I feel like it's going to be Brad Keselowski. I think that he is the odd man out in the group that is above the cut line currently. That seems to, in road course environments, find himself in sticky situations, and I don't know if being where he is in the points, only 20 points above the cutoff, with the likes of Brian Blaney, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex, and Kyle Busch all below him, and even Kevin Harvick. They're all within reaching distance of him, and I would pick any of those drivers ahead of Brad Keselowski in a road course setting. That's where I feel he probably has the most, I guess, to to lose in his situation, because he's sitting there with the 20, like I said, 20 points above that cut line. He might feel a little confident, but nobody should feel confident this week, and it's going to be interesting and exciting. That's where I'm leaning. Do you have somebody else in mind, or do you feel kind of in line with what I just said?
It's certainly possible. Brad can definitely have an issue with the car early. We have seen him struggle this year on road courses.
We've seen Penske overall with tracks like this having braking issues, so that could potentially play into this situation with multiple Penske drivers in really the chase at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays into this race as well.
Yeah, yeah. And if those issues happen, then you're right. Both Logano and Brad, and even Blaney, if it's really comes down to some braking issues, they could all be in somewhat of jeopardy of not making it to the next round. I and I won't be surprised, but I'm not going to build most of my lineups around that thought process. I think Brad, I think he's led laps in every single Roval race. Um, we did see that time that he plowed into the heartburn turn. We see that replay every time we're going to the Roval. So he's had some tough times here too. But I think, in my opinion, if this race just plays out kind of roughly how we think it kind of should, I think Kyle Busch is actually in a very vulnerable spot. Harvick, in my opinion, has run better here. He's had the race that Chase came back from also blowing the heartburn turn. I forget how many laps he led off the top of my head, but it was like 20, 25 laps that he led in that race. He was really strong. Chase happened to be better that day, but he was really strong. So Harvick in the three races here, his average finish is 7.7. He's got a top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 15s. He has the 5th best overall driver rating at 102.3. If I'm going to look at Kyle Busch, he has the 13th best driver rating overall. In his 3 races, his average finish at the Roval is 33rd, and he has 0 top 20s. So, in my opinion, if even if one of those guys below that cut line wins, and it's not Harvick, I think Harvick can get ahead of him in points if Kyle Busch has a typical Roval race for him. And he's had a lot of, I think, mechanical issues here. So that obviously, I mean, we saw what he did at Road America, how strong he looked there. So I'm not saying it's a lock, but I think that Kyle Busch and that 18 team, they probably are pretty nervous going into this race because 9 points, that's not a good enough cushion here.
Yeah, it was really surprising to look at the garage thoughts that you put together this week and see all the red associated with Kyle Busch and that spreadsheet, because 0 top 20s, 0 top 10s. He just hasn't performed well here. Just had bad luck. Again, it's only been 3 races, and he is somebody that has a decent resume at road courses, and I think he's somebody to contend with this weekend. It'll be fun to see how it ultimately plays out. Like we've talked about, there's a lot at stake. This is an elimination race, so that's big.
One more point about Kyle Busch, just to play devil's advocate off of what I just said, when we look at road courses this year, he has the best driver rating when you take away Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. Both of those guys have 2 wins each. He has 3 top 5s, 103.4 driver rating, not getting the fastest laps or laps led. And he's had a few races that's caused his average finish to dip a little bit. But when you look at just driver rating overall, he's been stout. So if he gets the equipment that he needs and can keep it clean, he can definitely be a threat, even to potentially win this race. But head-to-head, statistic-wise versus Harvick, there's a clear edge in Harvick's favor. And I would still give him that edge despite how he's run this year overall. It's going to be interesting to see how that particular battle plays out, or if that even matters. It may not matter. We may get some really crazy stuff happen.
Yeah, it's an elimination race, so it's really going to be crazy. It's almost like a wild card. We've seen multiple cars take turn one or try to take turn one and end up in the wall. There's so much that could happen. There's so much at stake. Even the Hendrick drivers that are technically need to win, Alex Bowman and William Byron have actually had solid performances here over the last 3 races that they've been involved in. Alex Bowman has an average finish of 4.7 with 2 top 5s in that 3-race span. He's somebody that needs to come out and win. Is this another surprise that Alex Bowman has up his sleeve? Is this something that you could see him actually potentially getting the job done to sneak his way in?
I wouldn't be that surprised. I'm actually trying to do a little look while we're recording this. I wanted to get some odds and see. So I just went and looked up the odds, at least on this sports book, the winning team. Normally on a winning team, you're going to get plus odds. Hendrick Motorsports even, which I think is actually still pretty good right now, because honestly it should probably be like minus 150, minus 180. I think Kyle Larson can win this race. I was surprised by how well he's ran in his 2 races here with Chip Ganassi. He's actually done really well here. We know Chase has won the last 2. And William Byron has also, I think a Hendrick driver should win this. I mean, if we're just looking at kind of performance overall, they've really had it dialed in. William Byron has the 3rd best driver rating overall at the Roval race. That's behind Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. Average finish has suffered a little bit, but he has 2 top 10s out of 3 races. Average laps led over those 3 races is almost 17 laps. Dude's pretty good here. If he can stay out front, we've seen him do it at a couple tracks already, Sonoma and Road America. I think he led the first 2 stages in both of those, if I remember correctly. If I'm picking between those 2, oof. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I think I would give the edge to William Byron. But that's tough, man. Who do you like between those 2?
I don't know. It's going to be. I think I would probably lean William Byron. He seems to be the most consistent out of the 2. But
so just to make it fair, if it's head to head and it's even money, no matter what, let's just say it's even. Doesn't matter. You're not playing the odds or whatever. Who you putting your money on head to head versus those 2? They may not win, but let's just say head to head.
William Byron. I think he's been more consistent. I think I've seen more growth. Even though we've seen Alex Bowman win multiple times, I feel more comfortable with that pick. I just feel that he can achieve. I don't think he gets the job done this week. I don't think that we see him or Alex Bowman. But I think in this fun scenario you laid in front of me, I think I'd lean a little bit more William Byron in that instance. Somebody I don't think we should overlook that needs also pretty much to win is Christopher Bell. He has a win on a road course this year.
I have another little fun thing for you. Because I agree. In that scenario I laid out, I'm on William Byron too. I think you said it. Consistency. He's just been both have taken the next step in their racing career this year overall. Obviously, Bowman has more wins, but Byron had basically had one of the, other than Hamlin and I guess Larson, he had one of the most consistent seasons like all year. Like he was great. But I'm interested to see if you're looking at it from this perspective. If you're betting to win and you have to bet on either William Byron or Alex Bowman, and the odds are 14-1 on Byron and 25-1 on Bowman, where are you putting your money?
Alex Bowman.
Yeah,
that's the best value.
Yeah,
Best value comparatively, for sure, especially with his performance history here. I think this just seems like a sneaky way, even though I don't feel like it's a confident bet. There's a lot of value to be had there, and then this just seems like his kind of race. He needs to win. He could get the job done. I also what's Christopher Bell? Where are his odds at?
He is plus
on the book you're looking at.
He is 14-1, just like Byron is.
And he's somebody that's won on a road course this year, and he needs a win too, basically, to propel himself into the next round. And you're going to see some guys really in desperate situations that have pretty good resumes when it comes to this kind of racing. Points racing too is going to be fun to watch, and it's going to add a whole dynamic to this, especially with everybody that's got something at stake at the front of this field. Really adds to the mix.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I like those odds on Bowman. Do you feel like I'm not trying to just completely ignore everything you said, but I'm looking at this and because something I want to maybe get into just briefly. I don't want to make this a long segment, but I'm kind of looking at these odds here because I'm interested in this race. I think it's going to be a fun race. But now that NFL has started, we've seen DraftKings drastically alter their contest. They're about half the size. The payout structure is just as bad as it was before, but I think with less players, less money, it's really worse. So I've kind of scaled back my DraftKings exposure. I'm still playing. I still like it. I think it's still fun. Obviously, if you take down the tourney and you're the only one, it's still a great payday. Definitely worth the time and effort. But as far as doing mass lineups or anything like that, I'm just not going as heavy. So I've kind of focused my I guess my bankroll, if you will, on Prize Picks. I've been playing that a little bit more. I've really liked their platform. It makes it, I don't want to say easier, but it's just like, hey, you know what you get. The odds are what the odds are. You're not playing against, sharks and mass entries and all that kind of stuff. That's really fun. And then I also, like I know you do too, these little single bets. I'm looking at this and I completely understand where they're coming from. But Chase Elliott is 2-1 and Kyle Larson is 4.5-1. What do you think when you see that? I mean, does that tempt you at all? Because man, I think Chase should win this, but I don't know if I feel comfortable at only a 2-1 kind of payout structure there.
Well, yeah, I hit on Bubba Wallace this week, and that wasn't near that. So, but there's value, and you have to really look at it and what it represents. And to me, right now, DraftKings offers very little value for your bankroll. And so I get excited about action at Talladega. This action at the Roval I am excited about too, but I don't go as heavy because, like you said, the structures are a little bit different, the way they do the payouts, and a lot of people's attention is in the NFL, which I feel now that I'm almost 100% focused on NASCAR, then that I am able to have a little bit of an upper hand. So I don't want to completely get out of that ball game because I've had some decent weeks whenever we've experienced people go and put their mindset into the NFL or NBA, or right now we've got MLB playoff action as well. So there's a lot of people that have their hands in other sports, and we're able to focus here on the NASCAR stuff, and I like that aspect. But at the same time, going and doing the prize picks angle, like you just said, that's another element that you can utilize your bankroll in. But yeah, to me, the value is everything whenever you're looking at it from a perspective on just a single bet. And at 2-1, if you're really confident in Chase Elliott and you really think he's going to win, that's double your money without having to really shake a stick at it. But to me, I think there are a couple other drivers that are going to be a little bit more competitive. We've seen Chase win back-to-back times here. 3 times is very difficult to do in this sport. There's a lot of things at stake this weekend. There's some value to be had on that front as well. I like dabbling in multiple contests and different ways to continue to grow my bankroll, and I'll definitely be doing so with some single bets this weekend as well.
Well, you're right. I mean, he had won the previous 2 Watkins Glen races, and he didn't get the 3 in a row. He got second behind Larson. If he had a few more laps, he might have been able to run him down. But at the end of the day, he didn't get the win, so he didn't finish 3 in a row. So I think, I don't think I'll have much action on him to win from a singles point of view. I'll probably take a stab at a few other guys because I don't know if he's really going to just walk away with this one. Even Larson at 4.5 to 1, that's not bad, but I'd like a little bit higher odds if I can get them. 2 guys I wanted to mention because realistically, I think my focus, if I'm doing more singles, is going to be on top 3s, top 5s, top 10s, things like that. Maybe if I can get them top 20s, if the odds are good enough. But we do have Allmendinger in this race. He did win the Indy Road Course. He's at 15 to 1. He would not have won that race if Chase Briscoe didn't do what he did to Denny Hamlin, or had he just refocused and passed Hamlin because he was really stout late. He is at 40 to 1. Any interest on either of those guys from a first place finish perspective?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I liked Chase Briscoe a lot headed into that road course race at Indy. He's looked fairly strong and has got a resume in Xfinity to be able to produce in this setting, and I think he offers great value this weekend. I think obviously we saw what Allmendinger was able to do in the road course. He's a road course ringer, if you will. So him coming in the number 16 College car, I don't see any hesitancy on wanting to pull the trigger in a singles bet situation this weekend.
So, oh wow, look at this. I thought this was top 5. I'm actually looking at top 10. This is nice. Alex Bowman to get a top 10 finish plus 105. I might have a little interest there. But even with the way Bowman runs, that's not a comfortable bet.
Yeah, and being in Texas, we have limited access to some of these books. So if you're in other states, definitely want to shop around and see if you can find some better value. There are different numbers depending on where you look, and that, again, managing your bankroll is the biggest thing you can do for your own benefit, and shopping around, finding better value on some other sites would behoove you and your bankroll all in one setting.
Absolutely agree on that one. Shop around because it's not uncommon for one sports book to have a driver you like at, like, let's just say 10 to 1, and another one to have them at like 15, 16 to 1. If you like them enough to bet them at 10 to 1, why wouldn't you go to the sports book that gives you 16 to 1? I mean, that's a big difference. So, yeah, be smart there. That's what this is all about. It's, have fun, enjoy the races, but also grow your bankroll. So I'm excited. We don't have the prize picks information out at the time of recording this. We'll have that video out because I have a feeling there'll be some I think we might have a little. Hopefully, we'll have a little edge on Prize Picks this week with where they project some of these drivers. Because there are a few guys I think that could do really, really good. One guy we haven't really mentioned at all tonight. He was in position to win the first Roval race. He's been pretty solid most of the year. He's had a few unfortunate events. Definitely has not looked as good as Elliott or Larson, but that's Martin Truex. We know he can get around these courses. Obviously, I said I was watching his onboard, from 2 years ago. What do you think we're going to get out of Truex? Because he's not locked in by any means. He cannot afford to have a Coda type day again. What do you think we're going to get out of that 19 team?
I'm really thinking that this needs to be a strong performance from him and that team. I think it's right up their alley to be able to have a strong day, and I'm really expecting that from them. I really think that they've shown the consistency throughout the season that you want to see in especially this kind of environment. Obviously, that you mentioned the Coda and the rain experience there. That was a horrible wreck, and kind of I kind of take that and with a grain of salt what happened at Coda. So everything else, I think this will be something we're going to see him kind of step up. Hopefully, we saw his teammate Denny Hamlin last road course be really strong. I think we'll just kind of see them continue to build off this, and I don't know if we see them in victory lane. I think we see them competing with one or two of the Hendrick cars there at the end. What are your thoughts? Do you think we see him competing at the end for a winner, or is he going to be struggling this time around?
I guess I'll go with what you normally say. We'll just have to see. Yeah, it's tough because we just know how good Elliott's been and how good Larson's been on road courses this year. Like that next level of domination and being the cutoff race. But I think he should be a top 5 driver. A guy that could definitely disrupt that is, we mentioned him a little bit earlier, but is Allmendinger. He could get in there and break that up. But I think if all goes well, if he doesn't have any mechanical issues, is able to keep his car clean and just kind of race straight up, I think Truex is a legit top 5 car and should be, without any penalties, he should be finishing around the top 5 in each of the stage breaks. So I think he should be able to point his way in. But that 20-point cushion with the unfortunate results that he had at Coda, definitely doesn't make you feel very good. But I think overall, I think Truex is in a fairly decent spot this week.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to get everything kind of wrapped up with our content this week, since we were not able to do it last week except for our race guide and everything. We were able to get all that knocked out, but this week it's going to be the full video podcast, the race day rundown, which I'm always excited to do with our impact scores and all that. So we got to get all that prepared based on the data we're going over and the salaries and everything to do with the DraftKings angle. So a lot to be had, a lot to be done this week for that, but always fun getting that and preparing for the race this weekend.
So obviously we're going to take the information I'm about to kind of share. We'll talk about it. We'll do our projections. We'll do our impact scores. We'll have a much more polished thought process about the Roval by the time we do our rundown. But salaries are out now. They were not out earlier, so we didn't have a chance to look at it. So this gets to be a little first impressions. Chase Elliott is not the highest salary driver this week. Can you guess who that is? It is. He is going to be coming in at 11-2.
Yeah,
is that a lock?
Like 40th.
Yeah, it's starting 33rd.
Yeah, I know.
Is that going to be a lock for you early on? First impressions. This is, we're not going to hold you to it, but I'm just kind of curious.
I would imagine it's pretty close. I have to do some more digging, but that sounds right. I figured he would be the most expensive driver this week.
Yeah. Then we get Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex, Kyle Busch. That's your kind of top five. So uh, all of those drivers are above 10,000 except for Kyle Busch. He's at 9.9. Um, Going to be interesting to kind of get into it where some of these drivers are starting from. But yeah, I think I would imagine the highest stack is probably going to be Allmendinger and Chase Elliott. You're expecting Elliott to dominate, and you're expecting Dinger to come in and get the PD. If you don't think Elliott's going to do it, then you probably go Larson. So be interesting to see how everyone else kind of interprets this. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that just since it just popped up. Yeah, it's going to be hard, I think, to not have to put Allmendinger in there. But you know what? The best part about kind of what we do is once we get in and start doing our projections, we realize, hey, just because it seems like a lock, if this guy only finishes, 16th, 17th, 18th, whatever, that's not a bad day for him. They may take that, but that might not be worth it in your lineups. Or a driver might only need to get to 16th or 17th, and you think that he has to get a top 10, and all of a sudden it's like, well, no, if he hits that, that's easy money right there. So looking forward to that, but like I said, I just had to kind of get your first reactions.
Yeah, no, it's always fun to do that. And you mentioned the Chase Elliott potentially being a dominator. I wanted to remind everyone that this is a shorter race. There's only 109 laps, so that's going to be something to consider. That place differential is going to be a little bit more impactful than laps led and fastest laps and everything that are typically at stake. But at the same time, those are going to be paramount as well. So we have to find that fine line and that balance and make sure that the lineups that we build are very constructive and have great upside with them.
Man, I'm looking at the race preview here in our race guide, and dude, unless someone goes to the back, this is going to be a crazy starting order going into turn one. I'm just thinking about how those first couple of turns go, because obviously we got Hamlin on the pole, Brad's on the outside pole. Who knows what that's going to do? We mentioned his struggles this year, Penske overall. That outside roll, Christopher Bell, we know how good he's been. He might be able to get out to an early lead if he can get around Brad quickly. He might get around his teammate Hamlin and lead a good little chunk of laps. But the problem is he's starting fourth, so there's not a lot of PD upside. So if he leads a few laps but finishes 12th, 13th, not so good. Then you get Blaney on that outside, then Chase Elliott starting 8th on the outside. Kyle Larson starting 10th on the outside. Both those guys have PD, and dude, that first lap, because they almost don't start getting single file sometimes till after that first lap. That's going to be intense. That is some stat. And then obviously you got Logano, Truex, Harvick, Kyle Busch on the inside. Whew, man, I hope no one fails tech because I don't want to see anyone miss out on that fun.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun for us to kind of strategize throughout the rest of this week to put everything together for the rundown, because there's a lot at stake being an elimination race and then a road course setting that we've seen 6 times already this year. There's been a lot for us to be able to kind of get exposure to. We understand who has the ability to get the job done, and we know that there's a lot at stake this week, and I'm excited to kind of see how it ultimately all plays out, and I'm excited to get in studio to do the race day rundown. Is there anything else that you want to touch on about this week going into the Roval and this elimination weekend before we wrap this thing up?
Well, I'm just still kind of looking down the starting grid, and I might have spoke too soon about Dinger because, man, you got Tyler Reddick starting 29th, Chase Briscoe starting 22nd, Matty D starting 30th. We know he's not always the best coming from the back to the front, but we know if he's got the right car, I mean, he's had some strong runs at times on road courses. And Chastain. I mean, think about Sonoma. even though he did probably do that correction illegally, probably should have been penalized. Didn't matter. Still helped us win some money off of him. So there's going to be some interesting value. The builds are going to be kind of fun. I mean, I think we'll be looking for that main lap leader, high finisher, and all PD. But we'll have to see how it all breaks down. As far as the playoffs go, I mean, shoot, who knows how this thing's going to play out? Because if we get another issue where 10 cars blow that first turn at some point during the race, at least 1 to 3 of those drivers in the playoffs will probably be caught up in it. Which ones they'll be, who knows? We'll see how the race plays out. But dang, this is, with having that rain-shortened Talladega race and a non-playoff driver winning it, that really is going to put a lot of extra pressure on a lot of these guys. And a guy that I didn't think would have to worry too much, Chase Elliott, only being 9 points above it, they cannot just say, they can't just coast around here. They're going to have to work for it, because there's a lot of hungry guys out there who have to win this. So overall, I'm just excited to get this race, going green, because I know it's going to be an exciting one. And we don't really have to worry about rain, because they'll just throw rain tires on there, unless, of course, it's a hurricane or something. So looking forward to it. That's about all I have for this episode. How about yourself? You got anything else that you wanted to wrap up with?
Well, like I said, I'm excited to get all of our thoughts kind of wrapped up and put into our DK impact scores and out to everybody for that race day rundown. That really is a lot of fun to be able to get put out there to everyone, and we appreciate your support. And if you've watched or listened to this far, go ahead and please hit the subscribe button or download, comment, something. Let us know what you thought. We've been doing this for almost a full season, and we appreciate the support from everyone. Even though we missed last week, we apologize for that. We're only human, and we really do strive to be able to produce content that's relative for every week and every race. So when we aren't able to meet that requirement, it bums us out. But we also don't want to just put out stuff that we're not really truly inspired to put out there for you. So again, if you liked what you've seen and heard, please hit that subscribe button. It's truly a benefit to us, and we truly do appreciate all the support from everyone out there. But man, I'm excited to get this thing kind of ironed out, and everybody kind of is looking forward to who makes the cut, and we'll find out here in a couple short days and find out ultimately who is on to the next round. But we'll find out ultimately how it all plays out. But for now, we've had a lot of fun. I'm Joe, and that's Jeremy. This has been the DK Garage, and we'll see you next time.